Good afternoon and welcome to CVM Live, the noon edition on CVM Television, online at cvmtv.com. And remember, you can download our CVM TV Smart app from the Google Play Store. I'm Whitney Leafy. Nomination exercise is on the way for both candidates contesting the by-elections on March 5 for the Northwest St. Andrew constituency and the Norman Gardens division. A total of 112 polling stations across 21 voting locations will be used in northwestern St. Andrew, and 52 polling stations across 12 locations will be used in the Norman Gardens division. And joining us now with the latest from the Pembroke Hall Community Centre, where Keisha Hale was nominated, is our managing editor, Irvin Forbes. Good afternoon, Irvin.
Good afternoon, Whitney.
A report said that everything went smoothly for the nomination of Keisha Hale. What can you tell us?
Well, she was nominated within the past, say, 45 or so minutes. The PNP contingent has now left, and actually JLP supporters have begun to assemble on the scene. She was supported by her party leader, Dr. Peter Phillips, party chairman, and other senior officials of the party. And scores of them, I wouldn't hazard a guess as to numbers, but scores of supporters were here. They were quite enthusiastic, quite vociferous, although there were a few who did say that realistically it would be tough for her to win. But they were here making their presence felt for her nomination.
Okay, what was the crowd support like for Keisha Hale?
Well, interestingly, in addition to the scores of PNP supporters who were here, when we came, we saw perhaps about 4 persons in green shirts. For most of the time, interactions were cordial, but a little after she arrived and her party officialdom arrived, there was a bit of tension that the police had to address just about immediately. But support for her, the supporters, they felt that they came out and offered strong support to her. There were a number of buses that arrived on the scene in addition to private vehicles. So they seem pretty pleased with their support. So we'll see what happens when it's time for the JLP nomination.
Right. You would have spoken to her. What was she saying, and how confident is she about securing the seat on March 5?
Well, she and her party leader, Dr. Phillips, as well as other senior party members, they spoke to the press after her nomination, exuding confidence, Whitney, feeling that she's an excellent candidate, that the time has come. They continue to speak about representation deficit during the tenure of the previous MP, Mr. Smith. So they are exuding a fair degree of confidence that they will be able to take the seat come election day.
Right. Okay. Thanks, Mr. Forbes. The position for Member of Parliament was made vacant following Derek Smith's decision to step down from the position. The situation created controversy within the JLP, with Smith aligning himself with his son, whom he said was earmarked to assume the role. Dr. Clark's nomination is happening in Norman Gardens, Windward Road, All Age. Public transport operators are raising alarm about the likely implications of provisions in the new road traffic bill, which has been passed in Parliament and is to be debated in the Senate. As Irvin Forbes tells us, a group of operators met to discuss the bill and are now planning to seek support for their position across the island.
Transport operators are again quite disgruntled about moves which they believe will drive them out of business. They are particularly concerned about the proposed penalty for persons who operate contrary to the terms of their license, a provision they note would carry a fine of $30,000 plus 15 days imprisonment.
If you are in half a tree and there's a gridlock within half a tree, yeah, you were supposed to turn on Courtney Walsh Drive, we'll turn on South Oden Avenue. Yes. Okay. So you're in contravention of the terms of your license. Right. And therefore, you will not go to court. You will be given on spot 15 days imprisonment and $30,000. But the other thing, your vehicle will be taken away.
If you were to look at the amount of people killed on our roads last year, across the length and breadth of Jamaica, the people who caused this carnage, they are not so heavily punished here. They charge $10,000 and $5,000 and $20,000.
The operators are urging lawmakers to reconsider the definition of the term contrary and also to revise the penalty. Mr. Todd observed that taxis, including unlicensed taxis, are now carrying many of the passengers who used to take the buses, rendering the bus owners hardly able to cover their expenses.
It is disingenuous, it is unkind, and as bus operators, we are not nearly about to sit down and allow this to happen.
So, Mr. Governor, Mr. Prime Minister, you are to get involved in this.
The new road traffic bill will replace the current Road Traffic Act of 1938, sections of which have become outdated due to the technological developments in motor vehicle and road designs. The bill was tabled on September 9, 2016. Irvin Forbes, CVM Live.
The executive branch of the government has no right to interfere or determine what action is to be taken in account for a Chief Justice to move from acting to confirmed. That was a statement made by the Executive Director of the National Integrity Action, Professor Trevor Monroe, who was speaking recently at the Mona Law Signature Event panel discussion as part of the UA Research Day's activities. Monroe says 10 years ago the Justice Reform Task Force had indicated that one of the key strengths of the judiciary was the confidence and belief in its veracity.
I would certainly ask that you support those of us who are saying to the Prime Minister, do nothing to undermine the confidence that the judiciary and the chief of the judiciary will at all times conduct himself or herself with integrity and without regard to any test or actions required by another branch of the government.
Monroe added that Jamaica has always been ranked in the top quartile of the Global Competitiveness Report for judicial independence, so steps must be taken to prevent a distrust of the judiciary system.
We must not be complacent. We must ensure that we speak out against any action from whatever quarter which threatens that integrity and that commitment of the judiciary.
And breaking at this time, CVM Live understands that judges are presently locked in a very important meeting which has led to the adjournment of several court matters. Sources reveal that the meeting has been convened to discuss the appointment of Brian Sykes as acting Chief Justice. The matter involving the 6 people killer 12 years ago was also adjourned at the Supreme Court, from where our reporter Nicoy Wilson joins us. Hi Nicoy, good afternoon.
Hello, Whitney.
Very interesting developments. Can you confirm whether the meeting was actually called to discuss the acting Chief Justice issue?
All right, well, I cannot confirm that. However, I can say that I was in a matter, the trial, as was mentioned, of Michael McLean, and the judge who was there, Bertram Morrison, he said that he had to adjourn the matter to attend, well, not to attend a meeting, but to look after some personal, very important matters. Now, I went to the new Supreme Court building where I was told the meeting was going to be held, and I observed Justice Bertram Morrison actually coming and into the building with his security details. And speaking to someone, to an attorney, Michael Linton, he indicated that he was told that that the meeting would have been about the Brian Sykes, although he could not confirm.
Have you managed to have words with anyone from the legal fraternity?
Well, as I just said, I spoke with attorney at law Michael Linton. I also spoke to George Clew, and the suspension of court matters today is not isolated to the corporate area. I'm hearing that it's an island-wide thing. Okay. And that is what attorney at law George Clew shared with me.
Right. All right. Thanks, Nicoy.
No problem.
Deputy Financial Secretary in the Ministry of Finance and Public Service in charge of Strategic Human Resource Management, Wayne Jones, says the Special Early Retirement Program, SERP, introduced by the government in January, will feature a number of new clauses.
Shall is explained and characterized by a number of elements that would not be in your normal early retirement activities. One is that we have included an incentive. So the incentive is 2 weeks' pay for each year of employment up to a maximum of 1 year's salary. 2 weeks' pay for each year of employment up to a maximum of 1 year's salary. And important also to note that the eligibility requires you to have been vested. And vesting for us in this arrangement is 10-year service with at least 1 permanent appointment in a pensionable post. So it's age plus you being vested. And then you get an incentive of the 2 weeks' pay I spoke about.
Stressing the fact that the program is targeting a specific age cohort of public sector workers in ministries, departments and agencies between 50 and 59, he said there is much to be had once an application is approved.
Also going to be afforded pay in lieu of vacation leave accrued up to the point of the retirement date. That retirement date is going to be set by the commission once we know, our application numbers and so on. But we have ideas as to what that will be. So
the by-election for the Northwest St. Andrew and the Norman Gardens Division will be held on March 5. Prime Minister Andrew Holness announced the dates for the nomination and by-election at a party meeting in Pembroke Hall, St. Andrew. The contest will be between the JLP's Dr. Nigel Clark and the PNP's Keisha Hale.
Your new Member of Parliament, Nigel Clark, will be nominated on Monday the 12th of February 2018. And the day he will be elected to Parliament will be March the 5th, 2018.
The vacancy was occasioned when JLP stalwart Derek Smith stepped down after a shade under 3 decades in office. As part of the effort to reduce crime, the National Security Minister has met with councillors from the opposition People's National Party. The discussions took place in Maypen, Clarendon, and in a move which the minister says breaks new ground. Here's Irvin Forbes.
After Saturday's meeting in Maypen, Mr. Montague noted that his ministry had previously held consultations with churches and other stakeholder groups. He explained the rationale behind this meeting.
And it came out of a discussion the former chairman of the PNP and the current general secretary had last year at the ministry. We decided to arrange this local government consultation. One was done with the JLP.
Without divulging details, both sides spoke of robust discussion on some issues during Saturday's talks.
There was a robust exchange. To me, it was a very, very good meeting because the exchanges were there. The critical information was exchanged. We presented a number of initiatives. We were able to make notes, and we will be going back to the ministry to tweak some of our initiatives based on the feedback. But what we had in the room at the end of the day were Jamaicans that were concerned about the situation in their country and wanted to clear the situation. We may have different pathways of getting there.
The outspoken PNP councillor for the Papine division in St. Andrew spoke to our correspondent. Venetia Phillips acknowledged there were concerns about the decision to meet with the party representatives separately.
It is a good step forward. I would have wanted, though, I don't get the rationale separating the JLP councillors from the PNP councillors. I believe that crime is not something that we should treat within this way, but I take the minister's explanation. But so to that extent, I believe there's going to be a joint meeting, so I await that one.
That aside, she mentioned that the PNP is concerned about police morale and also about non-politicization of the police force.
I hear the minister on the issue of reporting relationships. I don't share the minister's view. I believe that should be put to the public for the kind of consultation before we even take a decision or before the parliament, seek to decide on behalf of the people of Jamaica. It is very, very important that that decision regarding the reporting relationship be discussed with the people of Jamaica.
Another meeting is to take place involving councillors from both parties as well as councillor caretakers. Irvin Forbes, CVM Live.
Dwayne Smith, parish councillor and son of former North West St. Andrew Member of Parliament Derek Smith, endorsed the man who was given the green light ahead of him to represent the JLP in the upcoming by-election, Dr. Nigel Clark. In this report, the party admits there is much to do, but hopes to put the hurt behind. It was an area council meeting long overdue for the people of Northwest St. Andrew, with an ailing MP who recently retired, sending the party to seek an urgent replacement. Councillor Dwayne Smith had hoped to succeed his father, but did not get the party executive's approval. However, he appeared not to be green with envy, just hurt. He stressed the fact that his father sacrificed his health and family for the party, and he hoped to follow suit despite the hurt.
There's no greater dream I have had in my life than to represent the people of Northwest St. Andrew in Parliament. But again, I will say to you, the party's interest comes first. I am willing to sacrifice my personal desire for the party. I am here to tell you, beyond a reasonable doubt, I am 100% behind Dr. Nigel Clark.
Dr. Nigel Clark, a former JLP senator, explained why he decided to take up the political mantle.
Working with a leader over the last decade in various capacities has stirred in me a response to duty's call, as our anthem says. There are many ways to serve people and to serve our country. But politics is unique in that, put to good use, it offers the opportunity to do the greatest good for the greatest number of people. So I've offered myself because I want to fight the good fight.
Dr. Clark, a Rhodes Scholar, spoke highly of Marcus Garvey and his teachings of advancement, explaining his fight is not with the PNP.
After you beat them in the interest of the country, you might have to work with them. So we want to fight the good fight. We are for the poor and we want to fight against poverty. We want to fight the forces that would keep our people in ignorance. We want to fight corruption in all its forms.
There's been an unpleasant development at the Puerto Seco beach in St. Ann, which is the center of legal proceedings, as you'll hear in this report. Despite a plea to speak with the alleged owners of the Puerto Seco beach in Discovery Bay to share the property with the members of another group with the same name, it would seem another alternative was considered. Devastation over the weekend when the current occupants turned up to see a locked gate, and further inspection revealed a demolition of sorts of what was once a haven for the scores of returning residents who swear by the aqua aerobics program at the beach put on by Joyce and others.
If they can't gain access, then we'll just have to gain access by whatever means necessary and go on the beach, because according to the law in Jamaica, the beach is open to everybody. So we'll be here Thursday for a swim. So if you gentlemen want to come back Thursday, maybe you can come back. We don't anticipate any violence, because we're not violence to the people. God.
But if the gate isn't open, you intend you will open it yourself?
Well, if I can get a bolt cutter, I will cut it off, because I have all right to go over there. I will cut it off. The same like how they cut my lock off, I will cut their lock off.
When asked why the row has not been brought before the political representatives, he explained the last time it was raised with the councillor, it was dismissed. He contends the Caucasian owners do not wish to entertain the idea of sharing with their black counterparts.
It's not the first time we've been locked in and locked out, 2016, at least 30 helpless souls was locked into the club, right? They was locked into the club. Some of them have hypertension, some of them have diabetes, and some of them had panic attack, and they could not get out to get to the medication because the guard at the gate decided that he's not going to open the gate because there were a crowd of people like us who want to get in, and they fear that if he open the gate, then we're going to go in. The thing is, at that time, the security guard that at the gate, he had his uniform on, so we know who he came from, right? And needless to say, he was affiliated to next door, right? But no, it's all private security, so we don't even know who they belongs to.
It's understood the debris from the demolition was dumped outside Joyce's home, miles away from the beach. Nika Lewis, CVM Live. Now the police are seeking to lay charges in relation to the dumping, and the seniors and occupants have reportedly retained an attorney with plans to demonstrate on Tuesday. Ronald Thwaites is suggesting that the vote for the act to amend the Banking Act of Jamaica will serve as a litmus test for his fellow parliamentarians as to whether or not they have the interests of the average citizen at heart. CVM Live's Joel Crosskill tells us more.
Consumer protection is the theme surrounding the Act to amend the Bank of Jamaica Act, heard in Parliament today. And Member of Parliament Ronald Thwaites was categorical in his assessment of the importance of the legislation.
The vote on this bill is going to determine which members of this House are willing to act decisively on the part of the ordinary people of Jamaica who are or not, and who are not able to find any kind of recourse other than this in this kind of legislation. And the member who has proposed it deserves the unstinting praise of the House and of the people of Jamaica.
Mark Golding spoke of a number of important aspects of the bill that will lead to greater consumer protections.
Another important provision is in paragraph E, which requires the lending institution, the deposit-taking institution, to keep the language in their agreements with customers simple and clear, and ensure that key terms are clearly identified and defined for their customers' attention. And those key terms include things like rates, fees, payment dates, and so on. Plain and simple terms. When one looks at the fine print in most financial contracts, it is often in legalese of the highest order, which the average person would struggle to understand.
Meanwhile, Ronald Thwaites questioned the burden of loans disbursed by banking institutions.